I'm John from Let's Talk, and today we're going to be talking about the new Criterion 4K Blu-ray release of Sofia Coppola's debut film, The Virgin Suicides. But before we dive into the review of that, if you're a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, television reviews, video game reviews, and maybe some tech reviews, we try and do them all here on this channel, and nothing helps us out more than if you like this video and you hit that subscribe button. So The Virgin Suicides was originally released at the Cannes Film Festival in May of 1999, but it got its official wide release in May of 2000, almost a full year later. And this is the directorial debut of Sofia Coppola, daughter of Francis Ford Coppola, the legendary director who made such great films as Godfather trilogy, which also, the third one, did star Sofia Coppola in a very forgettable role. And Francis Ford Coppola is also the director of one of my personal favorite films, Apocalypse Now. And apparently directing runs pretty deep in this family because The Virgin Suicides is a very, very well directed film. And the film stars such great actors as James Woods, Kathleen Turner, Kirsten Dunst, and it's narrated by Giovanni Ribisi, who would actually work again with Sofia Coppola on 2003's Lost in Translation, which is actually my personal favorite of Sofia Coppola's films. But she made her debut with this film, and this film follows James Woods and Kathleen Turner, their two parents, who have 5 daughters. All of them are very attractive, and they catch the eye of a bunch of boys in the neighborhood, all of which are infatuated with them, and the fact that they pretty much are just trapped in their house and under their parents' rule. They're two very overly religious, overbearing parents, but they have their daughter's best interests at heart. But when the youngest daughter attempts suicide, it's recommended by a therapist, actually in this film played by Danny DeVito, that she actually hang around with younger boys her age, and that, you know, despite the love in the family, she is going to actually need to, you know, interact with more people her age. As the film progresses, and another daughter, because this movie is called The Virgin Suicides, as the youngest daughter again attempts suicide, and this time succeeding, the parents become even more overbearing and more overly religious in making sure that their daughters stay in line to try and avoid what happened with their first daughter, because they believe that that is the correct answer to everything, and it's just sending the parents down into a downward spiral. And it's still catching the infatuation of these boys and what is going on with them, and they build up a friendship even though they can't see each other. And because really this movie is told from the perspective of these boys. It's not told from the perspective of the parents. It's not even told from the perspective of these young girls. You know, despite the fact that these parents are overly religious, this film doesn't rely on religion to tell this story. This story is actually, it's a pretty dark, but yet it's a coming of age film, and it's told very well. Like it's got a very good score. The music choices that are made in this film, which should be a surprise if anyone knows Sofia Coppola. She knows how to actually pick the right songs to put in her films, the right song choices to help sell the film that she's trying to make. And I really do think that she made some great decisions. Those are actually my favorite scenes. One at the homecoming dance, when they're actually playing when the one song is playing and it shows them all dancing and having a good time. That was actually my favorite scene in the film. You know, it was just to take, I guess maybe, you know, it was just a high of the fact that most of this movie is actually it's a tragic tale. Getting to see these girls actually enjoying their lives, something that they are so desperate to do. That's what they're trying to illustrate to you, because this film is based on a book that came out in 1993, and it was considered something that couldn't be adapted to film, but Sofia Coppola wrote a screenplay for this, and then, you know, eventually was able to direct it. And it's an incredible story, and obviously, you know, she comes from the Coppola family, and that's probably what opened doors for her. But Sofia Coppola is so talented. I admire this film so much. I think I admire this film a lot more than I actually enjoy this film. I think it's a very well-made film, and it's a beautifully shot film. Very well directed. Like I said, the score is awesome. Everyone is playing their parts great. You know, even small roles from Danny DeVito or Scott Glenn. You know, no rock is left unturned. Everyone is doing a great job. This is the start of a very good working relationship with Kirsten Dunst, that she would appear in a bunch of Sofia Coppola's films going forward. I leave the film, I mean, I guess, you know, you're not supposed to leave this film happy, but I just kind of feel empty watching this film, and it just doesn't work for me 100%. It's definitely not my favorite Sofia Coppola film, but I can definitely admire this film so much for a directorial debut. Some of these shots in this film are amazing. You know, you really can't undersell the beauty of this film, and some of these shots and what the effort went into making this film. It is a beautiful film. You know, I don't want to sell it short as far as visuals go, as far as the audio goes, because it's such a nice film. You know, it's so well acted. It's not my favorite kind of film. And one big thing that really, every time it would happen, would take me right out of the film is Giovanni Ribisi does the narration of this film. And personally, I don't think it works at all. Now, narration, it could be a good tool and it could actually take away from the film. Now, this film I think does need some exposition to help move it along, but I feel like that was not the right choice for me personally. Every time he would pop in and do some narration, I wouldn't have minded it as much if they just had done it in the beginning or at the end to, like, you know, get things going and to wrap it up. But it's in there in the middle a few times too, and every time I would hear his voice, it would definitely take me right out of the film. I would still get back on track, I would still get back into it, but then, you know, he would come back and it would take me right out of it. And for me personally, it just doesn't work. I do really like this film. I'm glad that it's in my collection. This is the second time within the last couple years that I've watched it, and I'm definitely going to watch it again. You know, it's just not my favorite film, and definitely not my favorite film from Sofia Coppola, because I'm just a huge fan of Lost in Translation, and I'm hoping that one day the Criterion Collection can get their hands on that, and we can have a Lost in Translation 4K Blu-ray, because Sofia Coppola knows how to make beautiful looking films. And since we're talking about beautiful looking films, let's dive into this Criterion 4K Blu-ray, because that is the real star of this show. So this originally actually got a Blu-ray release in 2018. This isn't the first time that The Virgin Suicides has appeared in the Criterion Collection. It's been there for already 4 years. It has a Blu-ray and DVD release that came out in 2018. And this time they've actually upgraded it to a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. And this was overseen by Sofia Coppola and the cinematographer Ed Lockman. I hope I'm saying your name right. And it is gorgeous. The visuals on this are 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, any way you want to swing it. The visuals are stunning on this 4K Blu-ray. Now, I haven't seen the Blu-ray that came out in 2018, so I'm only comparing it to the Blu-ray in here and the 4K in here, and it is stunning. I have looked up what other people have said about the Blu-ray to 4K, and they said it's a pretty massive jump, which I'm pretty surprised to hear, because Criterion puts out some great Blu-rays, but I guess going back over it, because it does have HDR10 on it, really does make a difference in the visuals. Again, like, I can't compare it to what it looked like back then, but it looks incredible now. It is unbelievable. This is definitely one of the best visual showcases that Criterion has put out, and I can see why they would go to their back catalog and choose to put out a new 4K instead of just putting out something that's completely brand new. Like they did this with Mulholland Drive, and they're going to be doing it again in September with Blowout, where they already have a Blu-ray and they decided just to upgrade it and move it to 4K. Now, my biggest complaint about doing that is the fact that they don't change the box art or anything else when they upgrade it to 4K. It actually kind of sways me from buying it, because I don't want to buy Mulholland Drive again, and I don't want to buy Blowout again, because the box art is exactly the same as it is from its original release. And that's kind of disappointing. Like, at least like when other films do a 4K release, when they have Blu-ray releases, they try and change the box art to at least make it for the collector, you know, it makes it worthwhile for them, because I don't want to just buy something for a little bit of an upgrade. If I hear that it's a very big upgrade, I'll definitely pick it up. Like, this apparently is a pretty big upgrade visually, so if you do have the Blu-ray from 2018 from Criterion, more than likely you're going to get your money's worth. And if I find out, I might actually still buy Blowout in September, because I'm a huge fan of that film, but I am definitely disappointed by the lack of changing in the box design. But it's just a minor complaint for me personally. Like, I don't have this, so it was definitely worth it for me to definitely pick up this edition of The Virgin Suicides, even if the only thing that's different is the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray disc in there, and the box art, the extras, you know, everything else inside is exactly the same as that 2018 release. Besides the visuals being incredible on this, I gotta admit, the audio is really good on this. And this has a DTS HD 5.1 on there, and it is incredible. I mean, this really made use of the rear speakers, which actually really surprised me, because there's a certain scene towards the end where you can just hear the birds in the background, and they're going between different speakers, so that means that the audio mixing took a lot of time to do. You know, they could have just shot this out and put, you know, just had it coming out of your speakers. They didn't have to put as much effort into the audio as they did, but they really put a lot of effort into the audio. I mean, this was using my woofer. This is, for a movie like this, a small indie movie, because don't get me wrong, this is very much a small indie movie. I believe it only cost $9 million to make, and the fact that it has a cult following now, and the Criterion Collection put so much effort into it. Obviously, it's supervised over by Sofia Coppola, so she made sure that this is exactly the kind of movie that she'd want put out in the world, because she is a filmmaker through and through, and she just cares about exactly the best way for you to see her film. And believe me, the Criterion Collection is more than more than happy to oblige with that decision, and they did another phenomenal job. Visuals and audio are incredible on here. Now the extras, I believe, they're all exactly the same from 2018 because the interviews on here are from 2018. They do make a point to note that, so I'm assuming that they're exactly the same. They're not brand new interviews, so again, if you have the 2018 release, it's the same extras. But one extra I do want to point out is that there is a documentary from 1998 that was made on the set by Eleanor Coppola, who is Sofia Coppola's mother and Francis Ford Coppola's wife, documenting the making of this film, and I thought that was awesome. Now, you might know Eleanor Coppola because she directed Heart of Darkness, which is on the Apocalypse Now 4K Blu-ray if you buy this, and it's also a very famous documentary documenting the making of Apocalypse Now and all the disasters that happened on that film. And you know, obviously that's her husband Francis Ford Coppola making that, and they did the exact same thing for this film, but this is a very different filmmaking process than what happened with Apocalypse Now. Actually, everything on this film seemed to go very well, so it's a very yin and yang between Heart of Darkness and this documentary. But they're both directed by Eleanor Coppola, and you get some nice some behind the scenes footage with Francis Ford Coppola because he's just out there supporting his daughter and he's having a great time. He just looks like a very happy dad, and you know, you got interviews with Scott Glenn and James Woods. Even James Woods said that this is a lot of fun making that film. So it was just very different than making movies like The Godfather or Apocalypse Now. You've heard all those horror stories on set. Everyone looked like they were having a great time. And Sofia Coppola seems very different from her father, Francis Ford Coppola, based on this documentary. She's much more soft-spoken. She's much more relaxed, it seems like. She's much more of a thinker's director. Whereas Francis Ford Coppola, if you've seen him, he's very energetic, he's very animated, he's just always excited to talk. I mean, I love Francis Ford Coppola. I love hearing him talk about film. It's just funny watching his daughter, who seems like very quiet and very reserved kind of person, and watching this documentary really did illustrate that to me, and I really enjoyed it. So if you do pick this up and you haven't seen this documentary from 1998, I could totally recommend it. You know, I've said it before, but one of my favorite things is when they put a documentary on these 4K Blu-rays or Blu-rays from Criterion, and I'm usually disappointed when they're not there. So it was really nice to have one on here, and made by such another fantastic filmmaker in Eleanor Coppola. You really couldn't ask for much more. So overall, like I have said, I'm not the biggest fan of the film. I can appreciate the film more than I can enjoy the film, so definitely that's going to drag the rating down a little bit, but visuals and audio are definitely 10s out of 10. The casing is the same from 2018, so it's not going to be that much of a it's not that much of a difference in that sense, and same thing with the extras. Even if I did really enjoy them, they're not different from the 2018 Blu-ray release. But if you are on the market, there is no better way than to see this film than on here on 4K Blu-ray from Criterion Collection. But like I say all the time, if you could find this film on streaming and you've never seen it before, I could still recommend it, especially if you're interested in filmmaking. It is one of the best filmmaking achievements you'll see on camera. So guys, I'm going to give this an overall, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's definitely still a recommendation from me, but your mileage may vary on the film. But if you're a filmmaker, I would definitely check this one out. And if you're into 4K Blu-rays and you want to give your TV and your audio system a test, surprisingly, this will definitely give it a test. So guys, as always, thank you so much for joining me here on another episode of Let's Talk and doing a Criterion review. I really do appreciate all your support, just like I know everybody else here on this channel really does. So if you could, please like, share, and subscribe, and you tell all your friends.